The plaque shouldn't be there. It's bolted to a wall that used to be plaster and mildew, and tonight the plaster has a seam, and the seam has a secret. Do not enter. The echoes will never leave. Dr. Lena Hart holds her breath. The beam of her headlamp curls around the warning and drags shadows down a corridor that doesn't exist on any map. Rolling, says Eli behind the camera. He's young enough to think you can tame a place by recording it. On your mark, Dr. Hart. Lena touches the plaque with 2 fingers, like checking the pulse of a dead thing. Mark, she says, and don't stop rolling. The false wall groans open, and the smell that comes out is colder than the storm. It's like the air has been holding its breath for 47 years and just decided to exhale. Welcome back to Davenport Asylum. The road up to Davenport is a scar carved into shale. One side is cliff, the other is nothing. The asylum sits at the top like it washed ashore and never learned the word home. Lena drives. She doesn't trust other people to bring her to thresholds. You ever think places like this should just be left to it? Eli asks as the GPS sputters into gray. Left to what? She says. Entropy? Memory? Rot eats facts. He smiles despite himself. You were born a grant proposal, weren't you? On a wet Tuesday, she answers, and pulls into a lot where parking lines have drowned in moss. Inside, their footsteps come back twice, once from the floor, once from down the hall where nobody is. The neon exit signs flicker so fast they seem to stutter. The building hums like a power plant that's dreaming. Doors wear metal labels like tired name tags. Hydrotherapy, quiet room. Observation, sleep lab. Ceiling fans ossify in the air like dead birds. At the end of a corridor, a curtain hangs from a track with the stubborn optimism of a ghost. Behind it, a room with a bed. On the pillow, a plastic badge smudged with age. Gray M. Caretaker. Found you, Lena whispers. She never clocked out, Eli says. Maybe she couldn't find the door. He's filming the caretaker's badge when a thin line of air brushes the hairs on his wrist. He angles the light. The wall has eyes, the kind humidity makes. Also the kind that watch. Dr. Hart, he calls. There's. She's already beside him, knuckles searching the plaster for a stud, a breath, a memory. You smell that. It isn't mildew or bleach. It's colder, like dry ice, like December in a drawer. They find 3 bolts buried under paint. When the last gives, the wall doesn't swing, it sighs. There's a door. It is heavy and plain. Above the knob, the plaque again, polite as a command. Do not enter. The echoes will never leave. Cute, Eli says, because fear and wit share one closet. Archivists were poets, Lena says, already turning the knob. You want my rig, he begins. Roll, she says, and opens Davenport's other mouth. Beyond is a corridor that matches no blueprint. It runs narrow, long, and slightly downhill. The floor's hex tiles are blue-black and swallow the cone of their lamps like ink. A brass plate riveted to the arch is small as a bookmark. Ecology. Not a word, Eli says. Wasn't, says Lena. Now it is. They step inside. The temperature drops and the sound changes. The rain and wind outside are gone. In their place, a faint ticking that isn't a clock. Bones? Keys? Teeth? Their own footfalls talk back a beat later. Lena takes 2 steps, here's 4. Eli taps his mic. 1 tack becomes 3, then 5, then a little cascade like beads. Feedback, he asks. The room, Lena says. The clacking settles into rhythm. Not a metronome. Metronomes are honest. This one clicks a fraction ahead of their pulse. It anticipates. Okay, Eli says, I hate that it's predicting me. Or training you, Lena answers. Like a conductor taps before the orchestra plays. As they move deeper, the walls begin to glisten, not with condensation, but something more deliberate. It gathers into pendulous beads, wobbles, then falls the way honey falls, a slow vow. When drops hit tile, they don't splash. They sit as if the floor is hungry. Eli lifts his camera for a close shot. Through the lens, he sees what the eye misses. Each droplet holds a warped shape like a trapped syllable. Tiny black commas distort in the meniscus, then slip away. Playback later, Lena murmurs, head tilted, listening. What? Eli asks. You ever hear your name when no one said it? All the time, he says, but I was alive then. Shadows behave until you look away. Then they lengthen. Then they separate from the shoes that made them. On Lena's left, a doorway opens into a room with frosted panes carved with numbers. Ecology loved numbers. Stenciled 8s and 9s bloom on lintels like a fever. The figures collect at the edge of light. Narrow men, tall angles, heads cocked like they're trying to hear your thoughts better. When he turns, they stop but less. It's pareidolia, Eli says too quickly. Brains see faces and noise. And if the noise sees you back? Lena asks. A red clock mounted high blinks 3:33 and refuses to budge. Eli taps his watch. The second hand ticks, but when he looks again, it hasn't moved. The rain outside feels like a rumor. Wind goes on strike. How long have we been in here? He asks. Long enough, she says. I'd love that to be a number. Your fear wants numbers, she says. Your fear is an accountant. They reach a niche with a small iron box secured by a narrow slot. Above it, another plaque. Archive Vault Key. Specimen. Shelves line the niche, dusty jars, labels bleached to whispers. Patient in 19, hair. B07, hair. C01, hair. Every jar is empty. No hair. Just rings of dust like sleeping caterpillars. Who removes hair and leaves jars? Eli mutters. He shivers. Nope, I know the answer. Lena traces the slot with a gloved finger. Too narrow for any metal key. They were feeding them to each other, she says. Thoughts braided through a community. Hair braided through a lock. Signal plus signal until you get this. The hallway, Eli says. She takes a slim handheld recorder from her coat and sets it on the shelf by the vault. We've been hearing the hallway, she says. Let's see what he hears. Dr. Hart. I know. Don't anthropomorphize buildings. She presses record anyway. Subject, echo hall recording. Observation, clacking synchronized to anticipatory pulse. Viscous drip with potential phony morphology, periphery shadows, time non-Euclidean, vault key to hair specimens. The word ecology appears to have been a department. The levels are quiet, stable. Leave it running, she says. At first, it's just latency. Lena speaks, and half a second later, her words repeat, tinny from the device. Then the delay doubles. Then it halves. Then the echo starts finishing her sentences. Department, the recorder whispers. Department, Lena hears herself say, and stops. The recorder doesn't. Does not stop. It repeats in her voice, then adds, continue. The clacking jumps a beat ahead, then two, like an impatient audience, snapping in rhythm. The hallway narrows in sound, if not in brick. The drip becomes a steady talk, a faucet turned confession. It picks up words from the recorder and smears them along the walls. When droplets fall, they hiss. Department does not stop, continue. Does not stop. Continue. Kill it, Eli says. End it, push end. Lena's thumb hovers, but the stop button has sunk into the plastic, as if the recorder has decided to prefer recording forever. Laughter answers from the corridor, not mocking, overlapping. It is her laugh, copied dozens of times until harmony becomes dissonance. Under it, a low human sound like somebody being brave in an MRI. The recorder fills itself with a new voice. It wasn't built to hold it, but it does, the way an old house holds new grief. Welcome to ecology, it says. Eli shoulders the rig, starts moving. The floor tiles raise a fraction under his boots, like skin standing in goose flesh. He trips, hits a wall, lamp skitters. The figures step nearer. When he turns, they stop but less. He can almost taste breath. Lena, he asks. She's still at the vault, staring not at the recorder but through it. Her pupils have gone wide. This is it, she says softly. They try to make minds touch. Cool, Eli says through panic. Can we not be their demo? Echoes amplify, she says. You get song if you're careful. You get screech if you aren't. The recorder rises a finger's width off the shelf, buoyed on its own sound. Eli's preamps redline. In his headphones, the chorus turns chant. Every Lena repeats the words she hasn't said yet. I can fix. I can fix. I can fix. Don't, he says. Don't promise it anything. I'm not, she says, and then she is. The walls lean. The ceiling lowers. The corridor develops elbows where there were no joints. The figures bleed inward, some in hospital gowns, some in blankets like capes, some only coats without people. Drips fall faster. Each burst on the tile resolves into tiny worm-like letters that crawl and still. Stay. Listen. Again. Lena drags Eli through a recessed door marked OBS. 3. Inside is a room of mirrors. It tastes like spent batteries. Cover your light, she says. He does. In a mirror ahead, the hallway's true shape reveals itself. Not straight, but an inward turn. A spiral narrowing to a throat. At the center, a dark seed. It looks like a person curled around a word. Mrs. Gray, he says. The woman appears at the threshold. Grease-smudged uniform, hair pinned hard, face plain in a way that makes you think of warm tea. She lifts a hand and points to the mirror. Her voice lies down where it is put. Help them, she says. How? Eli asks. She points again to the seed, to the center. Put a voice there, Lena murmurs, scanning a patient chart sealed in old plastic. Ecology, Trial 23. Locked room, mirrored immersion. Group, verbal entrainment. Specimen key control, hair. Goal, induce unconscious echo. Result, catastrophic feedback loop. Note, Mrs. Gray refused to leave subjects without caretaker present. Lockdown initiated. They were trying to fill the middle, Lena says. With what? A patient? A caretaker? A promise, she answers herself. The recorder now screams and whispers and sings. Easy words, stay. Again, listen. Under them, a child's lullaby. Tuneless, beautiful. Words to a song that doesn't exist. Please, Eli says. He is small now. Please. She takes his face in both hands. Eli, she says. You have to go. What? No. I can't ask a student to die for my research, she says, almost smiling. Ethics board would hate it. You're not. I'm not dying, she says, then honest. I don't know what I'm doing, but the only way out of a loop is to break its center. It needs a voice it can't chew, a word it isn't allowed to copy. Nothing is uncopyable, he says hoarsely. Love is, she says, and shakes her head at herself. Listen to me. I sound like a brochure. Mrs. Gray watches, face saying, hurry. Take the left wall, Lena says. Not your right. Your right wants to come back. He's shaking his head. No, I'm not leaving you. You are, she says. I brought you to record a phenomenon, not to become one. Your job is to leave and make sure this story doesn't become a room. Tell it, and don't let it echo. I don't. You can, she says. Because you don't want to. That's the trick. She pulls a marker from her pocket, takes his hand, and writes a single word across his palm. It's messy and perfect. He reads it and chokes. You promise, she says. He nods, and it breaks him a little. When the hallway begs you to stop, you keep walking, she says. When it remembers your mother, you keep walking. When it says my name, you keep walking, he says, because repetition can be medicine. She kisses his forehead like a secular benediction. You have to let me try. He goes. It is the hardest thing he has done. Left hand on the wall. Eyes forward. Don't look long at anything that wants looking. The hallway reroutes like a malicious GPS. The air tastes older at every turn. Left, he mutters. Left, left, left. The recorder paces him like a dog the size of God. It tries his name in 10 voices, then 50, then his mother's. It finds his father's cough. It finds the sigh a girl once made in the dark when she thought they were alone and loving. Left. Not yours, not yours, not yours. Mrs. Gray appears where the corridor folds itself. She doesn't speak, only points forward. Her finger rows him through a river he can't see. The droplets on the tiles spell please, then wobble and appeal, then peel, as if the hallway is losing its language. Behind him, the mirrors bloom light as Lena walks into the spiral center. She does not record. She speaks. "Listen to me," she says, and every voice that loves command looks up. "You've been eating your cells for 47 years. You are loud and hungry and unfinished. You want a center? Here." The hallway repeats greedily. Here, 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 here. "No," she says, and the no is enormous. The word that makes parents out of people. "Not yours. Mine." "What do you put there?" The recorder asks sweetly, braiding her voice tenfold. "My voice," she says, and only one word. "Free." She doesn't roar it. She places it like a key, like a hand on a fevered forehead, like the opposite of stay. The spiral chokes. It has no answer. The word hits the seed and blooms into silence. Not annihilation, rest. The kind of quiet that finally lets sleep in. Eli drops to his knees as pressure pops. His ears ring. His eyes water. His heart stutters and then remembers. "Lena!" he cries, and this time the hallway does not answer. Mrs. Gray takes his hand, the one with the word, and squeezes. "Go," she says. He looks back. She shakes her head. "Go." The corridor becomes a corridor. The drip becomes a drip. The lights find a rhythm that sounds like boredom instead of threat. He arrives at the door like doors are normal things. He opens it, and the storm rushes in like applause. He doesn't look back. He wakes in white. A nurse tells him 3 months have passed. Exposure, concussion. Lucky. The police use words like trespassing and property in the old hospital. He says he remembers rain and a wall with a plaque. When he tries to say the rest, the memory slides away. At night, when the ward quiets and vents tell patient jokes, he hears something soft at the edge of hearing. Not a voice, a melody. For notes, then 3, then a hush. A lullaby. It doesn't agitate him. It anchors him like a hand steadying a falling cup. He goes home to a life that feels wrong, like somebody moved the couch. In old newspapers, he finds the same paragraph a dozen ways. Shuttered 1978, budget cuts, caretaker missing. A smudged photograph shows a woman in a badly buttoned uniform, hair pinned in anger, face like a bread knife that learned to sing. Mrs. Gray. He leaves flowers at the base of the cliff where the asylum stares the ocean down. "Thank you," he says. The wind doesn't say you're welcome, but it exhales. On his palm, in the little valley of skin between thumb and forefinger, the ink has washed away. He writes the word there again anyway, sometimes when he feels the hallway in the corners of rooms. Free. He keeps the promise. He doesn't go back. He tells the story once into a recorder in his quiet apartment, then deletes the file without listening, because some stories can only be said. The lullaby stays. It is inconvenient when you want to sleep and someone has left a music box open inside your skull. It is also proof. It is Lena. It isn't an echo that feeds on itself. It's an echo that feeds him, very small, very kind. He goes on with the ordinary heroism of bills and friends and all the fragile attempts people make at being good. Sometimes he pauses on a sidewalk and listens, as if the city might hide a corridor if you ask properly. He always keeps walking. Davenport Asylum sits where it sits. The plaque is still there. The door is still heavy. The hall probably still exists, the way rooms exist when you aren't looking, in the brain, in the throat, in the ache behind the eyes when you realize there's more listening than there are words. If you find a corridor that anticipates your heartbeat, if dripping starts to spell, if your own laugh comes back with teeth, do one small thing, the hardest thing. Don't echo. Say a word the room can't use without breaking. And then walk away.